2022, really a tale of two ends of the spectrum. So for the first quarter of 2022, things remained really busy after an absolute bumper 2021, where we saw more hiring, almost more hiring than any time I've ever been here, and I've been here for 13 years now. But I mean, after kind of March time, and especially after May, we saw a big decline in the number of roles in private practice. The IPO market and the M&A market dropped off considerably. The IPO market sunk to one of its lowest levels that we've seen here. And they tend to be the powerhouses of hiring for the law firms, and tend to be a huge amount of revenue for them. Also, a lot of the other areas kind of come off them and support them, right? So that meant the private practice for the second half of last year, and potentially even for the last 3 quarters of last year, was a lot more quiet than usual. There was still hiring in some niche areas. Employment's been very busy. We saw hiring in data privacy. We saw hiring to an extent in litigation, and some in banking and restructuring. So it wasn't completely dead. It certainly was busier than it was during the first 6 months of COVID, but not anywhere near at the levels of 2021. For in-house, look, the banks remain pretty busy, mostly hiring in the global markets areas, but we also saw roles in lending. We saw roles in litigation. Again, we saw quite a number of data privacy roles. Also PRC coverage roles. And they're gold dust people to find. But a lot of banks have been looking into that, especially to look at cross-border elements, and also to look at issues with data flowing out of China as well, which people are starting to think is going to be increasingly ring-fenced, and so they're looking for solutions there, both in legal and in compliance. So that was 2022. We're moving into 2023, so this has pretty much continued. We're still not seeing the bulk hiring in corporate and ECM. In fact, we've just heard of a number of redundancies in the corporate teams of some private practice firms. For the most part, firms are keeping their people. They are being relatively optimistic about the second half of the year. So, the partners we're speaking to in both corporate and in equity capital markets are saying, look, they're not necessarily going to see it in quarter 2, potentially. They're starting to hear rumblings of pipeline, which is great news. And so they think, hopefully, that the second half of the year should be pretty busy, mostly from China opening back up. So there is cautious optimism in the air. Whether or not that will translate into hiring is another matter, because a lot of these teams are actually pretty full. They did hire a lot in 2021, with things remaining relatively constant in 2022. And like I say, other than a couple of firms who've recently or very recently let go of lawyers, for the most part they're staying constant. So that's been generally the flow so far. Again, niche areas still relatively busy. We are seeing regulatory roles. We're seeing litigation, probably not a niche area, but an area where there still has been some hiring. Employment again has been very busy across the board, and there's been quite a few relatively big moves in that area as well.